The constitution, then it's it's a mirage. I mean, if the rights are not enforced by the court, then they would remain on paper.
The prolonged loss of education, and now that the lack of access to any kind of internet or other facilities to continue their education, is going to have intergenerational impacts on the lives of these children in Jammu and Kashmir.
The period from August to December 2019, it is estimated by the Kashmir Chamber of Commerce and Industry, was one that saw losses to the tune of 17,000 crores across all sectors of the economy.
J&K media were among the first to bear the brunt of August 2019 lockdown. With imposition of Section 144 and snapping of all communications, newspapers did not publish for 2 months. Even after the resumption of the activity, the policy was to censor the media and restrain it from advancing any opinion which runs counter to government's claims. The media also suffered with the restricted 2G services and frequent banning of internet. On this background, the new media policies brought by the government, which is to remain in operation for 5 years. It mandates that before the empanelment of newspapers or news portals for release of advertisements by government, the antecedents of the newspapers or news portals will be gone into. Then there is a day-to-day supervision of media by the Directorate of Information and Public Relations for fake news, plagiarism, and unethical or anti-national activities. The media policy enables policing of the media. It sits in judgment as to what constitutes anti-social or anti-national news, and this again involves security agencies which virtually give death blow to any remaining media independence in J&K. I think that after emergency, this is the first time this kind of a media policy has been adopted by the government. So what the government has done is to create a climate of fear among the journalists, reporters, and this policy gives opportunity to government to go after independent newspapers and journalists. And in fact, FIRs have been filed against several reporters and journalists who were considered to be not exactly friendly with the government views.
During the August to November lockdown, Section 144 was imposed and all communication was snapped. So it was impossible for patients either to get to clinics or hospitals or to communicate with their doctors over the telephone. Moreover, pharmaceutical shops were closed, medicine deliveries were not made, and so there were acute shortages of vital medicines, especially for patients in a serious condition. As compared to this, during the COVID 2020 lockdown, at least there was some means of communication, even if phones were restricted to 2G. And while movement to hospitals or clinics was extremely difficult, it was at least possible, which it was not earlier.
There were several habeas corpus petitions before the Supreme Court, mostly in connection with the J&K bifurcation and the detentions which were made after in view of this particular bifurcation. Now, the most of the cases were not taken up. What is a habeas corpus petition? That it means that they produce the body, and actually it means habeas corpus, and you have to establish These petitions are taken with utmost urgency. But unfortunately, the court is not taking up, is not showing any keenness or any urgency in taking up these cases. Another very strange order passed by the Supreme Court in case of another detainee, where Mr. Yechuri, because this detainee was a Communist Party leader, so Mr. Yechuri said that he wanted to meet the detainee who was detained. There was no such prohibition at that time. There is no law which prohibited Indian citizen entering the J&K. So a leader of the political party wants to meet his colleague who is imprisoned, and the court takes these are suo motu directions by the court that he should file some affidavit agreeing to some conditions. I mean, I find it very strange. The liberty is the most sacred thing under the Constitution. The whole edifice of Article 21 is built around the personal liberty. And this liberty can be compromised in very easy way by the government, and the courts are spectators.
We know that the children of Jammu and Kashmir have been in a state of lockdown for a year now, when it happens in August. So they have actually, their education has been completely disrupted over this 1 year. And given that the schools were closed, they were not playing, all the things that young people must do, there is a huge amount of mental health issues that these young adolescents are facing. The Supreme Court of India had in its order spoken of ensuring mental health services to be reached to all these children. We need to know whether that is happening, whether the district mental health centers have been opened, if the children are getting those services. So these are some of that is one of the most important recommendation at this point of time.
The period from August to December 2019, it is estimated by the Kashmir Chamber of Commerce and Industry, was one that saw losses to the tune of 17,000 crores across all sectors of the economy. And obviously this was due to the fact that under Section 144, transporters could not pick up produce, suppliers could not make sales online, even the prices of different mandis could not be checked. The major sufferers were industries such as the fruit industry, which contributed 10% to Kashmir's GDP. Tourism, which contributed 8% to Kashmir's GDP, suffered a huge loss. Almost a total closure. The IT-reliant industries, many of the smaller companies were forced out of business. Handicrafts, many of the small self-employed groups have again been forced out of business. If we look at the possible figures for Jammu, then we are talking double the estimates of the Kashmir Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Sadly, in the budget presented in March of this year, no allocations were made to compensate for these losses.